What's going on, everybody? Tyler, Drake, and Lauren Koval here for another edition of Cardinals Corner. And no, we did not run the 40. We did not do a bench press, but we did take a lot in from the NFL Scouting Combine this past week. But before we get into that, got to give a shout out to Lauren, who did a little national radio hit with XM, Sirius XM.
Thank you.
Congrats. Good job.
Thank you.
Get your name out there. How was it?
It was good. It was my first one. But I really felt like getting the first one under your belt, you feel a little bit better now. You feel a little bit more prepared, and shared a little bit of my combine takes on there. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess transitioning to that, what is your biggest combine take?
My biggest combine takeaway is the Cardinals need a wide receiver, and this really, really feels like the draft where you stay at number 4, or you can trade down a little bit and still take that wide receiver. The 3 that really pop out to me are the 3 that it seems like most people agree with: Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, and Malik Neighbors participating at the Combine and really showing everybody just what he's made of.
Okay. Was there anyone that stands out above the rest?
I think the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. did not participate in the Combine, not a slam against him and what I think he can do. He didn't have to participate in the Combine for all of us to know just how good he is. But I think that Malik Neighbors really made a name for himself in terms of possibly jumping Marvin Harrison Jr., but we'll see.
Okay. So to recap a little bit, Marvin Harrison decided not to do much of really anything. He was there for medical. He did not speak with reporters. He did meet with teams, one of which was the Arizona Cardinals, and Jonathan Gannon, who jumped on with Arizona Sports, Wolf, and Luke the other day, actually said it was a really great interview. He's very mature, very thought out. It sounded like a very, very well thought out, put together interview all together from both sides. So we'll see what that goes into. But I think my biggest takeaway is it doesn't really matter that Marvin Harrison didn't talk. That's where I'm at. Like, he knows he is a top 5 pick. I don't think anything was going to change that, even if he did speak. I really don't think he was going to hurt or improve his stock. Why do it? You still met with teams. You still did the medicals. I mean, he did more than Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams didn't do his medicals. So that's an interesting thing. But I would have to say, for everybody like, oh my gosh, he didn't talk. He shouldn't be Marvin Harrison is probably still the number 1 wide receiver in this draft class. I do like Rome Odunze, though. Just the fact that he went through the whole scouting combine, did all of the drills, didn't leave the field until he got under, I think he wanted to hit 6.6 seconds on maybe a cone drill or something like that. And he stayed out there as like one of the last guys. So I think that says a lot about his character. And he really did want to show that he could be a number 1 wide receiver prospect. I think he could be a number 1 guy in the league. I still think it's Marvin. I think it's Neighbors. And then I think it's Rome. Do I think Neighbors is over Marvin? Neighbors did talk with reporters, but I just don't. I still think it's Marvin and everybody else right now.
To your point about Marvin Harrison Jr. not speaking at the Combine, my response to people who are upset about that is, what else do you need to know about him?
Yeah.
What else do you want to learn about him?
Yeah.
Exactly. What could he go to the podium, or what could he participate in the 40 or cone drills? And what did you want to learn from him? Was there anything you felt like you didn't know? And when you think about that, my answer, no.
And I feel like it's the same group of people that really don't take the Combine serious to begin with.
Yes.
And that's the nature of the beast, and the Combine is still going to be around, but I think we're going to see a trend of guys like Marvin, like Malik, like Caleb going about this route moving forward, because at the end of the day, if you know your top 5 pick, top 10 pick, why even do it?
And you don't want to go out there and you don't want to get injured. Or you don't want to prove that you might not be as good out of game situations as you are running these drills. And I think of somebody, I believe it was Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson, ran an incredible 40 directly after is helped off the field for an injury. And don't know
Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Exactly.
Yeah, he had an injury pop up too.
And I think the Combine, as long as it's sort of become more popular, it's become more of an event. They've moved it to a little bit more of a primetime slot. Exactly. It's something that as an NFL fan, you can just kind of keep your eye on, even though it's the off season. I don't see that making people participate in the Combine, players later on. I see it more as, okay, I don't need to do this. I'll be fine. And opting out of it. I think that is the future, the top sort of 5-6 picks in the draft, depending on what position you are, not participating anymore.
I feel about the same way there. What if Marvin Harrison isn't there at 4? Let's just go down that trail. because I think there's enough from the combine, from prospects who really showed out that they improved their stock, but was it enough to really warrant coming off of a wide receiver at number 4? What do you think there?
I think if Marvin Harrison is not there at 4 for the Arizona Cardinals, you have 2 options. You can go Neighbors. Mm-hmm. If you feel like you really need a wide receiver, I think it is Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, and then Rome Odunze.
Okay.
And you could go ahead and take Neighbors at 4. You need wide receiver help, especially that you've committed to Kyler Murray as your franchise quarterback. You need to build off of that, and you need to give him some more offensive weapons. We saw last season his really only true target was Trey McBride.
Yeah.
And bringing a wide receiver to that equation isn't going to take opportunities away from Trey McBride. He's a tight end. They do a different role on this team. They play a different position. And they really need to build around that wide receiver core.
Yeah.
I think another area that they need an edge rusher.
Okay.
They are low. They are at the bottom of the league in sacks. You really need to consider how much more pressure do I have to put on an opposing team's quarterback, a defense that we saw from the Arizona Cardinals that was sort of wishy-washy at best last season. So I'd keep my eye on somebody like a Jared Verse.
Okay.
Like a quick, high-productivity target. He had 9 sacks last season with Florida State. That's somebody I'd keep my eye on. They also need cornerback help, but I would worry more about cornerback help around that 27 pick.
Okay, so you wouldn't do 4 with Jared Verse, though?
No, I would trade down from 4.
How would you get to Jared Verse? Tell me that. What pick would you think he could be there at? What would the Cardinals have to do to get down there?
I think he could be there around 8, 9.
Okay.
Right around the Falcons, right around the Bears.
You're high on Verse.
I am.
Okay.
I am high on him. Okay. And I think that the people directly after the Cardinals in that draft, like the Chargers, they're not really looking for an edge rusher. Also, I've seen them mocked, most popularly Joe Alt of Notre Dame has been mocked there a lot. I think it's safe to say they wouldn't take him. And I think right around that 8-9 mark, you're still safe and Jared Verse is still an opportunity for you.
Okay. So I think wide receiver is the way to go at 4. I think if Marvin's not there, you really look at getting more picks. That's really what it comes down to. Monty came on Arizona Sports and said it himself. You got to build through the draft. Jonathan Gannon got it. Ultimately, it comes down to building through the draft. How do you build through the draft? You keep stockpiling picks like they did last year. And for me, if Marvin's not there, I think you trade down and you look at a Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. You look at a Dallas Turner, Alabama edge. Those guys are probably going to be in the middle, maybe high, top half. Yeah, wide receiver is definitely a big need. But like you just said, defense, they've got to get some pieces in there to really help the pass rush, even the cornerback side of things. Get somebody that can cover. Get somebody that can get on that number 1 wide receiver, a Quinion Mitchell, who might be higher than number 27 now after his great combine. But that's the type of thing that I'm looking at, especially the Terrion Arnold thing, just because of the fun kind of interview he had with the Cardinals, and it sounds like he's one of those guys that's right up Jonathan Gannon's football character alley with just their conversation of they went one-on-one in this small little interview room, and they did some press technique, and Terrion said he jammed him. And then I guess Gannon came back and the next time said he beat him for a touchdown. So very fun back and forth. I think he'd be a really great addition to that room. I do still think they have to get older in that room because they've got a lot of young guys. They've got to go out and get a free agent veteran. Maybe they bring back an Antonio Hamilton, who knows? But I think if they can really shore up that cornerback room with some added youth, but bring in a guy that can really bring that room together, could go a long way. And obviously Dallas Turner, he went off. I think he had like a 4.4 on the 40. Just really, his broad jump and his vertical was out of this world. So those type of guys, I think, would mold so well with JG and that defensive mind, and just even with Nick Rawlis. And man, who knows? We saw Starling Thomas, Keitrell Clark, and Garrett Williams all take big steps forward this year after not being one of those, top picks. What can they do with a guy that's already so polished coming out of a place like Alabama? That'd be killer.
Exactly. And somebody like Dallas Turner benefited from the combine. He might not have been on your radar beforehand, but because of those stats that he put up in multiple events during the combine, now I think you have to turn your attention to him. He definitely went up the draft board. So now if you're the Cardinals and you were seriously considering taking him before, you have to go, okay, he's not going to be available at 27 anymore. 4 might be a little bit too high to take him. Where can we sort of fall and trade back in the draft so that we can land him? The Arnold conversation I found was so fun because before you found out that it was Jonathan Gannon, he said, I went one-on-one with a coach. And everybody's like, who would go one-on-one with a cornerback in a small draft room?
And you think it's like, yeah,
that adds up. That adds up. And it was JG. And he seems like the kind of player where this is the first draft for the Cardinals where JG has opinions and will be able to sort of voice, these are the kind of guys I'm looking for. This is what, this guy maybe excited me. This guy maybe excited me. And Arnold definitely seems like somebody that JG specifically got excited about and could see being a key piece of the Arizona Cardinals. Also somebody who had a really good combine and probably won't be available at 27 anymore.
No.
As you'd hoped.
No.
So I do think it makes the most sense, just speaking generally, for the Arizona Cardinals to trade back and acquire more picks from 4.
Yeah, as JG said, he paid the price of admission. All right, that's what he's looking for. I think Terrion Arnold definitely did that. Like, that's just one of those conversations where it's like, yep, that's a JG dude. That is exactly the type of guy that these Cardinals want to get. And that was the first thing I thought of. And I think the only other coach I could have said who it could have been who went one-on-one would be Rawlis. But even Gannon debunked that and said, yeah, he's more of a center guard when they go up against the D-line. And he just got a bruised chest back in Phoenix after the meeting. So that was great. You can catch all that on Arizona Sports, that exclusive interview with Wolf and Luke, so definitely check that out. JG really had a lot of fun with the guys, so very cool there. Who's some other guys that stood out? I think you got to give a shout out to Worthy from Texas, the wide receiver. 4.21 40. Woo! And do I think he's going to go to the Cardinals? No, because they don't really need that type of player in the first round, more of a slot guy in my opinion. But that was one heck of a 40. After he already ran like a 4.25 or something too.
I know. When I saw the first run come up, I was like, no, he doesn't need to do it again.
No.
He could kick back. Somebody else who stood out to me during the draft, and we've talked about him a little bit just between us, Chop Robinson.
Yep. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes. He seems like such an exciting football player. Like, in an interesting way, like, he definitely has his own personality. He has an idea of this is exactly what I want to go out and do in this draft. He's a position of need for the Cardinals. And so I'm intrigued to see, not even if he doesn't end up with the Cardinals, he's a player that I'm intrigued to see where he ends up and how he performs his first year with that team. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, he ran a 4.4 40. 10-yard split of 1.5 seconds, 5.4 seconds, and had a broad jump of 10 feet, 8 inches. I mean, the dude killed it. For a guy who's got a nickname of Plump and Pork Chop, that's the complete opposite of what you would think when you hear that name. And I think his interview was so great with reporters and just, showing that other side of himself off the field. And, sounds like he's got a big family. And just the fact that his household nickname is Plump. When he gets out of the house, it's Chop. It used to be Pork Chop, but then he realized I'm pretty good at football and I'm pretty athletic, so now it's just Chop. I thought that was great, and he would be a guy that I would try to get at 27. But even him, like we said, some of these guys improve their stock to the point where it might take some wheeling dealing to get to Chop higher than 27, because that's where I mean, if he's there at 27, just go do it.
Absolutely.
Him more offensive tackle in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be the best case scenario. You get your wide receiver at 4, or if you have to go down and trade down, you get a Terrion Arnold, or you get a Dallas Turner. Come back around and get another guy. Boost that defense in the first round.
Exactly. And he's somebody who benefited from the combine.
Oh, yeah.
And got his name out there. Got his name out there in the media. Got his name out there with different teams.
Yep.
He was somebody that I was keeping my eye on before the combine for the Cardinals just because he is such a position of need for this team. And then the fact that he had such a great media presence and, as you rattled off there, some fantastic statistics from the combine. If he's available at 27, no-brainer. Go with him. Make it work. it'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, and here's another guy that I don't think is going to be there at 27 anymore, but JC Latham. I think he's going to be a top 15 guy now. But that's another type of player that if he's there at 27, it's one of those you don't even think about. Because there's going to be some tackles that are dropping. There's going to be some edge rushers that are dropping. I think enough of those guys did enough to where the tree widened. It grew a little bit more after the combine of people that could potentially be a first round, maybe top 35 pick, which Cardinals got 3 of those. So that could go a long way. I got to give a shout out, though, to a local guy, Jacob Cowing, Arizona Wildcat, Maricopa High School alum. I actually covered him when he was in high school. It's pretty funny.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and he was doing the same exact stuff he was doing at Maricopa that he's showing off now. And I mean, he had a great 40, ran a 4.38, definitely caught the eye of multiple teams. I would say the Cardinals included in that. So definitely don't think he's going to be a, first round, second round, but he could easily be maybe a late day 2, early day 3 type guy. And yes, the Cardinals have slot guys, but I think you add a guy like Cowing just to give some competition in that room. That'd be great.
I'd love to see some competition out of that room, specifically a room that recently has sort of underperformed, as we've discussed. And so I think it would be interesting to see the kind of dynamic, also another young talent thrown into that room, and especially with that competitive nature of Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing. Let's see what's going on there.
Yeah, you guys love competition. Let's see it.
Make it happen.
Yep. Another guy, Quinion Mitchell, who we mentioned, that's another dude at 27 who you have to really think about it if he's there. Toledo cornerback. He did a lot of good things at the combine, just really was one of the top performers in my mind. Ran a 4.33 40. So
just a little quick.
Just a little quick. Yeah. But from there, I think those are some of the names I'm looking at. Some of the positions I think mostly tackle, edge rusher, probably not a wide receiver in that range. But those are probably the 2 positions in cornerback that I'm probably looking at the most at 27 for that second first rounder. What would you say is your most important position at 27?
Cornerback.
Oh, okay.
Cornerback is my most important position because I think this draft is going to be so offensively heavy in the top half of it. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive tackles. Those come to mind right away as maybe, roughly 75% of the top 15 picks in my mind are going to be offensive guys in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
If you can go down there and get a cornerback that another team who's still highly talented, but another team might not need or want. If somebody like even a Cooper DeJean is available at 27, cornerback out of Iowa, I'd keep my eye on that cornerback position there.
And he's going to what? He's going to do more work at his pro day?
Yes, at Iowa Pro Day. Yes, he is coming off of an injury, but he will participate at his pro day. Okay.
Good to know. All right. Well, I think that I guess any big offensive tackles really stand out. I mean, Joe Alt, I think, did what he was supposed to. Fashawn, who did what he was supposed to. Amarius Mims, that dude is big, and he ran like a 5-second 40. So shout out to him. He definitely caught my eye. I think, I can't remember. I think he's like 6'8", 340. Yeah,
my
big
God.
dude. 6'7", 6'8". Big dude.
I can't say that I knew that off the top of my head. Like looking at him, you're just like, oh yeah. That's a beast down there.
Yeah, 5.07 second.
Okay.
Oof.
Okay, wow.
Oof. But yeah, that's another guy. Maybe at 27, maybe you trade up. He's in Mel Kiper's recent drafts or mock drafts. He's right around 24, 25, I think. So might have to come up. Maybe he drops. Who knows? Maybe take a look. Huge dude, though, to pair alongside Paris Johnson if you had to do it.
Exactly. And do you need another huge dude next to Paris Johnson? I mean, he's already huge to begin with.
Got to get the bookends.
I know. And so you're really stacking up that line. Yeah. So if he's mocked right around, 24, 25.
Could be there.
Fingers crossed he's available at 27.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps the combine. Let's take it to the Cardinals facility. Directly at the facility.
Okay.
Because we've got some NFLPA report card grades that just came out for 2024 after the Cardinals did very badly in 2023.
They did a little bit better this year.
Yes, I think that is the perfect way to say it. A little bit better this year. They went from 31st to 27. Improvement. I think some of the biggest things that were shored up were the uneven locker room floors and just not the locker room, the weight room, and just in general the weight room. I think they renovated that a little bit. Then you've got the paying for meals. That is no longer a thing. That was a definite big issue last year, just from talking to some of the players I know and just that whole thing. So improvement was there. Still a long ways to go. Gannon was actually asked at the scouting combine about it. He said that there was already things in place when they got there that Michael Bidwell, the owner, was already trying to implement, and they kind of just added to that. They're going to continue to do that. Gannon is, very optimistic about what he saw and what he's looking towards, and that he hopes that his players will reflect that moving forward. So I think obviously everybody kind of saw the owner grade, the head coach grade, but you also have to look at the other teams too. The Kansas City Chiefs did not get a good grade. They're coming off Super Bowl. So obviously I think, you've got to take all this stuff into account. Improvements made, still a ways to go, but at least it's positive. You're not sitting there like the Washington Commanders.
Not
who
last.
Are continually spinning their tires, regardless of the owner. So that's a positive. Yes, a lot of things still need to change, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
And we saw a positive with Jonathan Gannon getting an A on that report card.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a huge step in the right direction, because now you have a coaching staff in there that not only have players responded to, but fans have responded to positively. And so implementing those little changes, even the report card comes out yearly. So now you have 365 days based off of those responses to improve the environment. Obviously, you're not going to go from, 27 to 3 in 1 year.
No.
That's not something that's attainable. But those little small changes and focusing on the things that were most important to the players, like you had said, meals. I know then they also implemented a daycare and improved their family room situation, something that was really stressed on the last report card. Sort of taking those bigger issues and improving upon them for the Cardinals leaves me feeling a little bit more optimistic than I did last year looking at that report card.
Yeah, 100%, because you can see at least improvement was being made. It wasn't, oh man, we've got to go back and really change things up. No, you knew what you needed to change. You did some of the tweaks. Now, what's the next step? I think that's the big thing. As long as you keep progressing forward, it's okay. It's when you take that step back after showing some growth where I think things can really get messy. So it's definitely going to be on those guys to really keep pushing the envelope, renovating, revamping, maybe putting a new twist on it, like Gannon had talked when he first came on about, just spending more time with nutrition and just the little things that maybe we don't really think about as much as maybe a head coach or personnel people in the building do. So I'm interested to see the changes when we get back in the training facility, which who knows when that's going to be. I think sometime soon we'll probably have a interview or OTA or something to get to. So when the timing's right. So we'll see what that is, but at least there's a little step forward. I'm not going to completely sugarcoat it because, a lot of improvement still needs to be made. You can't be at the bottom every year. You've got to continue to climb out of that hole, and we'll see what next year brings. We'll see what this year brings and the renovations we might be seeing mid-season. Who knows? I don't know.
We'll see.
We will see. Lastly, we got to talk about Zaven Collins.
We'll see with him, too.
Big we'll see with him because the fifth-year options for players, the slots came out. And if the Cardinals pick up his fifth-year option, they would be on the hook for $13.2 million for 1 year. Initial just feelings, would you do it? Why and why not?
Bluntly, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I think that's too much. I think you can fill those gaps in other ways.
Okay.
I don't think he took the step forward last year that everybody expected him to. He'd switched positions, and there was sort of this is where he'll thrive. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. We've brought in a new defensive coach, and everything will be okay. And that didn't really happen. And that sort of progression, even as the season went on, didn't happen. And so I just think being on the hook for that much, looking at for 1 year, and looking at those stats, also, let's say hypothetically, the Cardinals go, okay, we'll bring him back this year. And you know that that's just 1 year. The Cardinals aren't going to bring him back the year after.
I mean, and look at the last two fifth-year options they didn't pick up. Hassan, what happened with him? Ended up doing pretty good. Isaiah Simmons, what happened with him? Didn't end up doing very well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of it's 50-50 right now. If you want to look back at the last two, for me, I think it's one of those where, I think the production, you had to see more production. I think he took some steps forward from what the coaches said to me. Robert Rodriguez was a huge fan of him last year, he was the guy who needed more work. I mean, B.J. Ojulari was a rookie, but when you think about it, Zaven had to have more time on task than he did just because it was a transition from Mike Backer to outside. So I wouldn't do it right now. I think there's a way that you could maybe do a long-term deal on a cheaper bill, but 13 for a year is just too much for a guy who I think he had 3.5 sacks. Yeah, 3.5 sacks, and I just didn't feel like he did enough to really move the needle to warrant that kind of payday.
No, and to your point about Reddick and Simmons, it's very much where do you end up? Who picks you up? What team do you go to? Can you thrive in that system? Reddick, when he went to the Eagles, we went, that's someplace where he'll succeed. That's someplace where he'll find success, and he has, and it's been great for him. Simmons going to the Giants. Okay, the Giants need help. Simmons fills that gap for them.
Kind of,
yeah. And how great is that going to be? Yet to be seen. It was just his first year with them. We'll see what happens there. But that's exactly what I think of with somebody like Zaven.
Yeah.
It definitely depends where he ends up. Can he thrive in that system? How different is it from the one he knows now with the Cardinals?
Yep.
And I wouldn't pick up that option for him.
Yep. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to take this away from him. He's a great dude in the locker room, very good with his teammates, always down to learn. At the end of the day, I think it's a business, and 3.5 sacks just doesn't do it. And I know that there's more than just the sack total, but I think they viewed him as one of their top guys coming off the edge, and he clearly wasn't. I mean, Dennis Gardeck led the way with 6 sacks. I think he could do that moving forward. I don't know about Zaven, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they go about that. May 2nd is going to be the day that they have to either pick it up or not pick it up, so we're coming up to it pretty quickly, and we will get there for sure.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of updates we have around there, and also the start of the new league year is coming up. So we'll see. So we'll see what happens there.
Yes,
yeah, the 13th.
13th.
So we'll see what happens there.
And we'll see who gets franchise tagged and who doesn't across all the other teams, because I can tell you right now the Cardinals should not be doing that this year.
No.
Nope.
No, but we'll see
whatsoever.
who doesn't get franchise tagged by other teams, and maybe that's an opportunity.
Wide receiver, maybe?
Do they need a wide receiver?
They do.
Yes.
They do, and they do. Well, actually, let's do one more thing. Any thoughts on Hollywood? Any changes? Pick it up? Or should they re-sign him? Should they not? And if they do re-sign him, what should it be?
If you can re-sign him for less than he would want, which I know is a bit of a cop-out. Less than he's expecting, less than, sort of a wide receiver 2
multi-year
in the league
or 1
would
year?
make one.
Yep.
1.
1 year, prove a deal. That's where I'm at.
And we'll see what happens.
If not, because I don't think he's going to come back to be the number 1, regardless if he comes back.
No, and especially with what we've talked about with the draft. The Cardinals have an opportunity to go out there and get a great wide receiver at the top of this year's draft. Also, somebody like Michael Wilson, who they drafted last year. If he stays healthy and really beats that injury bug, he's a solid option for them, and you don't really need somebody like Hollywood. We looked at Hollywood a lot this year on this podcast as somebody who Kyler would sort of rely on as he rehabbed from his ACL injury.
That was Trey.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And Trey had a breakout season.
Yeah.
So it's, like you said, prove it for Hollywood. Let's see what happens. Right now I'm leaning towards, okay, if you can do a 1 year prove it deal for cheap, go for it.
Can't break the bank.
If not, okay.
Good luck.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, you got anything else you would like to get off your chest today?
Not today.
Not today. Next week?
Maybe we'll see.
Next week. All right. Well, with that, we are going to call it. I'm Tyler Drake. That's Lauren Koval. This was Cardinals Corner. You can follow us on social media at AZ Cards Corner. You can follow Lauren at Koval underscore Lauren.
Yes.
Boom. Still got it. You can follow me at T Drake for sports. And like always, be sure to keep it locked on the Arizona Sports app, 98.7 and ArizonaSports.com. You can find more of my work. You can hear Lauren every day.
Every day.
What times?
2 to 6.
On where?
Arizona Sports 98.7.
The local sports leader?
Yes.
All right. And with that, we'll catch you guys next time.